Well, hi everybody, welcome to The Firewall. I'm Bill Whittle. A few days ago, the smartest man to ever hold the office, just ask him, President Obama, unleashed some more of that smart diplomacy that he has so successfully deployed to increase our stature around the world. He looked at the two sides of the Middle East conflict between Jews and Arabs and then decided that the one side that had historically made an entire volume of significant and costly concessions just wasn't doing enough. So he called for a two-state solution, a return to the pre-1967 borders with mutually agreed-upon swaps, an utterly meaningless term if there ever was one. Not surprisingly, this caused some outrage, and the professor-in-chief that finally emerged from his faculty room was shocked. He was shocked that people could be so dense as to misconstrue his call for a return to the pre-1967 borders as a call for the return to the pre-1967 borders. The entire history, of course, of Israel and her relationship with the sea of enemies calling daily for her extermination, well, that's a story for another time. What interests me now, though, is that this is yet another data point in a long line of foreign policy reversals that is fundamentally reshaping America's relationships in the world in a reckless, dishonorable, shameful, and ultimately futile way. Barack Obama is indisputably a turncoat. Now, some people think that turncoat means traitor, but it doesn't. It's something completely different. I'm not calling the President of the United States a traitor. I'm calling him a turncoat, because he is one. And he's making all of us turncoats too. It's an interesting term, turncoat. For most of human history, military uniforms were not camouflaged at all. On the contrary, they were composed of brilliantly colored jackets of scarlet red, emerald green, and royal blue, of enormous, intentionally conspicuous helmets and hats made out of bear's fur or brass or plumed with feathers or horsehair flourishes, anything to get attention. Why? Well, because on the close-fought battlefields of the time, you ran a better risk of being shot or sabred by one of your own men than you did by the enemy. You wanted to be recognized. But what if you wanted to surrender? What if the battle was going so badly that you actually wanted to switch sides? What if you were a British soldier, let's say, wearing a red coat and you wanted to surrender to the French who wore white? Well, to increase your odds of surviving the approach to the enemy lines, you would take off your red coat, turn it inside out to reveal the white lining, and then put it on again and walk forward wearing different colors. You would literally turn your coat. Now, that's not the same as treason, which is selling out your own side. I'm not accusing Barack Obama of that. I am accusing him of unilaterally switching sides, not just with regard to Israel and the Palestinians, but all across the globe. Don't believe me? Well then, get you to Amazon.com right away and purchase an ebook called How the Obama Administration Threatens Our National Security. It's by a man who I deeply admire, Victor Davis Hanson, a classical historian and intellectual heavyweight who, in just 44 pages, thoroughly documents how this most radical president in American history is turning America's coat, flipping, he calls it, in every area of foreign relations. In South America, for example, Barack Obama and his State Department made it clear that the United States was firmly on the side of extra-legal Hugo Chavez-type power grabs by socialist dictator wannabe Manuel Zelaya, and against the Honduran Congress, their Supreme Court, their Constitution, and their people. But that's the new America, the turncoat America, on the side of socialist dictators like Chavez and against liberal democracies like former allies Honduras and Colombia. Or in the Middle East, President Obama totally silent as Iranian freedom fighters die in the streets for democracy and liberty, recognizing instead of condemning the mullahs in an outlaw regime that declared war on the United States in 1979 and is the greatest single supporter of terrorism in the world. Now, with that support, he made it clear that the turncoat U.S. would not present any serious obstacles to raving lunatic Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and the Iranian pursuit of nuclear weapons, concurrent with his stated desire to eventually completely eliminate the entire U.S. nuclear stockpile. Oh, that'd be Obama's stated desire, not Ahmadinejad's, because, as you can see these days, it's no longer easy to discern the difference between what Barack Obama says he wants for America from what Putin or Chavez or Ahmadinejad want. Now, Dr. Hanson walks us through the entire tawdry block, the relationship with Russia and China, the calls for defeat in Iraq issued by the president and vice president before coming into office to claim credit for the eventual victory, and so on. But most heartbreaking of all, I think, is the turncoat treatment of our newest allies, Poland and the Czech Republic, who stuck their necks out a long, long way against a hostile and belligerent Russia in order to house the radars and launch sites for a US-designed missile defense system designed to protect all of Europe from Iranian nuclear attack. The Turncoat president broke that trust. He removed that system, sold out those allies, and he did it on the 70th anniversary to the day of the horrific invasion of Poland in World War II. That's the new smart diplomacy, the Turncoat diplomacy. And finally, what of our oldest friends? Well, over strenuous, almost hysterical objections from our most stalwart ally in the entire world, the United States gave the Russians the serial numbers for the British Trident missiles so that President Turncoat could get his little treaty with the Russians, a treaty that called for massive US reductions with no serious counter-concessions, just like the deal he's brokering with Israel. Now you're using smart diplomacy. So, what do the British get for being a US ally? The only country that can fight on the same battlefield technologically as us, who has bled and died through 3 world wars. The Cold War was a world war. Not to mention Iraq and Afghanistan. What do they get for their ongoing sacrifice and commitment? Well, an iPod. They get an iPod. But it's not just a regular iPod. They get one with Barack Obama's speeches preloaded on it. Who can put a price on that? My friends, it takes years, it takes decades to build the kind of trust that existed between the United States and Israel, or Great Britain, or Australia, or Poland, or Honduras. Decades. This turncoat president is making you and me, all of us, into a turncoat nation and destroying that trust in an instant. You only have to cheat on your wife once to forever destroy that relationship. After that, we know what you are and what you are not. And finally, it just doesn't work. Our enemies want us just as dead as they did before. They just think it's going to be easier to accomplish now that we don't have any friends left. And they're right. Don't take my word for any of this. Go get Victor Davis Hanson's remarkable ebook, How the Obama Administration Threatens Our National Security, at Amazon.com. And if you want to keep these messages coming, go to DeclarationEntertainment.com and become a citizen producer today. I'm Bill Whittle. We'll see you next time on The Firewall.